Today, we're going to be having a discussion talking about um, before AI can help, what must first be clear. Um, we have been operating within the real estate space, and most people aren't sure how or what their um, business model is, how they want to run their business, what they need to do to ensure that their business is working for them and they're not working for their business. And so we're going to use these discussions to talk about, clarity and what must be clear first before we can start using tools like AI to move things forward or create growth and momentum for our business and for our lives. Um, so tonight's promise is going to be by the end of this um, session, you'll be able to name where your truth lies and make one move without waiting on anyone. So, like I said, by the end of this session, we'll be able to have a clear understanding of what is needed for us to be able to um, ensure that our business is set up properly so that we can actually create leverage and allow AI or systems, let's just say systems, not even just AI, to create leverage and momentum for us. Where does the truth live in our business? Most of us are either new into the real estate space or new into the business space and aren't 100% sure about what it takes to actually run and conduct our business. And so we have so much education on strategy and being able to try to acquire or get acquisitions that we don't actually spend a lot of time talking about how we can grow and create leverage in our business and how we can what's needed first before we can actually start using automations, because you hear so many people talk about AI and using it. Okay, like I said, by the end, you'll be able to name where your truth lies and make one move without waiting on anyone. So I want to be able to make sure that you can see where your operational truth actually lives today. So for the people that are new, you won't have operational truth, but what we'll do is we'll work together to try to help you get to the point where you can see what type of business you want to run, what that business looks like, and what's needed to be able to allow you to move in a direction that is going to be beneficial for you, setting up the proper um, setting up the proper structure so that you can actually run an actual business and not get stuck um, in having a in having a high paid job or a low paid job depending on what's going on. Let me actually hold on a second. I need to. Okay, here we go. All right, go back to this. Okay, so we're gonna notice. You know, we want you to start noticing when you are asking AI to cover for missing records or unclear process. And the reason why I mention AI so heavily is that most people in our position are just getting started, aren't quite sure what they need to be able to run a business. And so we're going to start teaching you guys how to use AI as a thinking partner. So on Tuesdays, we'll talk about using AI as a thinking partner so that you can actually use it to create leverage and scale and what's needed to actually get those things into action. But on Thursdays, we'll talk about what it's going to take to operationalize the business and get things set up from a foundational point so it can be stabilized and structured, and then it can help you move forward. So we're going to tell AI the problem apart from a business clarity problem. So we'll have what the AI problem is, what the business clarity problem is, so we can see things clearly. We'll pick one destination that needs a trustworthy source of truth, and we'll choose one move you can make with no permission and no new software. So I have a use case for you. We're going to say, meet Jordan. This is a person, because we've been seeing so many people, especially within our community, that are running towards AI because they feel like they're being left behind. And they'll start saying, we need AI in our business. before we even sit down and talk to them about if they have a business model, what is the, what type of business model they're running, what type of business they're actually going to be in, and understanding what are the systems and processes that are needed to allow that business to run in an efficient way and things like that. So Jordan runs a small real estate investment business. And he leads arrive from everywhere. So he can get lead sources from wholesalers because he's astro flipping, or he can get them from pulling lists because that's what most people want to do. And when we first come into the community, a lot of people are like, what list do I need to pull? Or who do I need to talk to? I want a bird dog. I want to do this. I want to do that. Things are coming in from everywhere. You have deal notes live in text messages, they're in spreadsheets, they're in memory. And so the plan is let's get AI to qualify leads, follow up, and summarize the pipeline. This is how everybody normally starts. They say, hey, we have this new technology, we have this new thing, we're running a business, everything is chaotic, and we want to use AI to help us qualify our leads, follow up, and summarize the pipeline. The real starting point is not actually what people actually think it is. Before we can actually create a workflow or a system that would allow AI to help, look at what look at what it needs to work from to get to that point. We have leads coming in, so that means that we have multiple channels that we need to look at. We have text, we have emails, we have DM, we have spreadsheets, CRM. There's no one place that holds everything together. So when you have things like that, it becomes difficult because knowing what channel those information is coming in on is going to be super important for your business. We have inconsistent underwriting, deal evaluated with different assumptions every single time. There is no set SOP or systems and processes that would allow us to be able to say, hey, this is how we do this every single time, and we have a standardized way of ensuring that this is always done a certain way. We have the criteria in one head. Acquisition criteria lives only in the owner's mind. So the owner is the only one that actually has the vision, the process, the workflow, the infrastructure in their head, and it's not externalized anywhere so that somebody can actually look at it, find it, and get to actually working in that space very quickly. There's fragile follow-up. Follow-up happens only when one person remembers. It's not a situation where the follow-up just automatically happens. When it comes to real estate and you have high-touch leads, when somebody's ready to sell, they need to be contacted right away. So if you get a lead from somebody who says, hey, I'm interested in selling my house, the person that responds back to them the quickest is probably going to be the one that gets the deal if that person truly is motivated to sell. You have uncontrolled records. There might be, if you're doing fix and flips and things like that, you have contractor scopes and change orders, and it's no controlled record, no way of being able to monitor when changes happen, things like that. And we have all this untrusted attributes. These are all the things, and there's plenty more that exist before somebody can actually start using AI to create leverage. So we want to start showing people how you as a owner must change first before we can actually start using technology to leverage the business. So most of the time we're trying to decide, we say that there's a problem. What's not understood is this an AI problem or is this a clarity problem? And that is where we're starting to push things forward. We want to make sure that people can start looking at this from a viewpoint on, if this is an AI problem or if this is a clarity problem. So AI can accelerate a clear operation. AI can expose an unclear operation. AI cannot become the source of truth for a business that has not decided where the truth lives. And with most of the people that we encounter, they're running what they call a business, but they're not actually running a business because it hasn't been externalized from the owner's head. and put into a position where it can stand on its own. AI output cannot be the source of truth. A dashboard is not trustworthy just because it's visible. A recommendation is not authority to act, and more software is not more control. So before we talk about AI readiness and before we talk about how can somebody actually consistently and predictably, um, you know, understand what their revenue is or understand what their business model is or what metrics they need, there's a lot of things that need to be taken care of first. And this is why we talk about what must be clear first before we can, use AI to scale or to create leverage. So I'm speaking from a framework public point of view. These are not the only 6 things that must be clear first, but these are the teaching points that I'm going to talk from because these are the things that are important to be able to make sure that we understand them before we can actually build something. This is a diagnostic sequence, not a build order. We have foundation. I'll explain what that means. We have source of truth. We have process. We have ownership and control. We have observability, and then we have readiness. Most people want to jump to number 6 without truly understanding what the first 5 points are. You don't have to build a big system first. You find what must be clear for your next decision, and then we start from there. Foundation. I want you guys to think about, your business and what decisions or results are you actually trying to get or you're trying to improve. If you're new, you need to sit down and think about, what are the results that I actually want? What are the decisions that I need to make in order to see those results come to fruition? In this particular instance, real estate, not use AI for leads, it or decide faster and better which leads get immediately followed up on. So it's not about we're going to use AI for leads because that's not specific enough. And when people are sitting down and they're trying to leverage AI on inconsistent systems or non-existent systems, and then they're using it in an incorrect way, then it just amplifies the chaos that is existing within their system. So when you're sitting down and you're talking to AI, you don't want to sit up and say, I want to use AI for lead. What is better for you to do is to say, I need to decide faster and have a better process for which leads I need to immediately follow up on next. That is a more clear, outcome, and that clarity is the type of clarity that we're trying to teach people to have. So this foundational piece. This is just an example of foundational piece. I like to call this. Right now, we're doing pilots with consultants. We are writing a AI platform, and our AI platform is going to be a thinking partner and human operating system for people. And part of that platform's responsibility will be taking messy input and creating structured output, which we call clarity objects. And so what that means is you give it something that you don't fully understand, the decisions you need to make, and then the output of that is going to be clarity for you, for your life, for your business, for your vision. And so we've been doing this with consultants, and what we have been seeing is that one of the foundational pieces we call externalizing infrastructure out of the owner's head. And what that means is you have people that are successful in business and they run systems. Those systems may be documented, and some people they may not be documented. And for those that don't have documented systems, and the owner is the person that is maintaining and running the business, and they're the ones that's creating the success, what you'll often find is that they're running these types of businesses with workflows that are stuck in their head, and they're doing things what they're calling instinctively, that are not so much about instinct, but it's about patterns that they can see and process in real time. And they just haven't written it down and structured it so that somebody else can pick it up and take it over. This is what we're talking about when we talk about creating foundation. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about externalizing infrastructure out of the owner's head. Next, we have source of truth. So what that could look like for somebody is to say, where does the authority or the authoritative current answer live right now? So when you're taking somebody who has a business and they're trying to figure out, what do I need to get set up first before I can actually create leverage and momentum in my business so that my business can grow? Or even in my life, where does the authoritative current answer live? So in this particular case, an example of that would be if what's the status of the lead? If that lives in three different places, then you don't have a source of truth. You have three places you have to go look before you can figure it out. And in fact, what ends up happening is that if there's more than one place that you have to go to look for truth, you create ambiguity. And so when we're sitting down and we're talking about, where can I find information that tells me how much profit I made in the last 7 days? Or how much profit did I make in the last 30 days? Or how many calls did we make yesterday? Or how many calls did we make today? Or how many calls did we make in the last 10 minutes? Or, how many people reached out to all of these callers? Did we have 2 people? Did we have 5 people? Did we have 10 people? What was the amount of time it took before a lead came in before I actually contacted them? When you can't see that information and it doesn't have a place that it belongs, then you do not have an authoritative, you don't have a source of truth that is the authority that can bind or that can govern a transaction or a decision. And so one thing that I have been starting to teach people is this: just because someone produces a P&L statement does not make it authoritative. What makes it authoritative is when you can trace from that P&L back to the source, and you can verify this information is correct, and therefore now this document can become authoritative because it has been verified and it has been proven, and we can trace back to records that exist that we know to be the source of truth for that particular thing. So when you come into this business and you come into, hey, I want to do real estate, we often ask people, what is your business model, or what is the domain or the area that you want to focus on when you're actually working in the space? Is that going to be wholesaling? Is that going to be fix and flip? Is that going to be buy and hold? Is that going to be being a transaction coordinator, or is that going to be on somebody's team as a closer or as a bird dog or whatever you call it? Understanding based on that role, everything that you need to do and what lens you need to look at to be able to be successful and gain clarity in that particular domain. Process. What repeatable sequence turns an input into an outcome every single time? So one of the things that we have to be mindful of is that we want what engineers call determinism. Deterministic processes, and determinism means that I can do the same thing every single time and I can get the same output. And so when we're looking at your business and we're looking at what we need to do to ensure that things are clear before we can actually bring in software to create leverage or create momentum or create that stability or that thing that everybody is rushing you to, then we need to know what are the repeatable systems or the repeatable processes that are working for that particular business so that we know that the outcome is going to be the same every time. So, for instance, in this particular case, we have real estate. That process could be a documented process. It's not a followed process. If it only happens when you remember, it isn't a process yet. So if it's stuck in your head and it requires you to be the mover of the thing, like Adrian has to be the one that initiates this thing and pushes it into order or pushes this into existence, then that means that we don't actually have a repeatable process that has that takes input and produces the same output every single time. That means that we have a bottleneck, a person that is stuck in the middle that is going to slow down the process and not allow it to be what it needs to be in order for that business to move forward. Again, like I said, I'm not going deep, I'm going wide so that you can see what the structure looks like and start to understand what must be clear first before you actually have a business. And I'm using AI as a thinking partner and a resource that will allow you to be able to actually um, create the processes and the systems and the things that you need to actually push this into existence. Again, like I said, we're building a platform that will work with people to allow them to be able to communicate with the system, and it will naturally be able to help these things come out naturally. But until it's ready, we want to show people that they must be a part of the process. And so the what must be clear first before we can start bringing in AI is that it's clear that you have to be a part of the process. So this is about number four. When it says who owns the decision, the work, the corrections, and the exceptions. When a deal starts to stall, or who is going to be responsible for noticing that nobody's acting on this, or that it's stalled, or that it's waiting on a confirmation or a decision before the next step can take place, or that it's waiting on a signature? Who is the authority source? Who owns that so that everybody understands what needs to happen so the next thing can happen, so the next thing can happen. If it starts to ever come back that says whoever sees it first, then nobody owns it. And this is one of the biggest things that we personally learned in our own business is ownership. Like when it came to construction, Urania, she owned construction and the projects and the design. When it came to the money and the financing, and some of the strategy for finding it and underwriting and all the rest of that, those are things that I own. So we had clear ownership regarding those things, but a lot of it still was recognized only when we pushed those things forward. And when I went to business school, I went to the University of Illinois at Brown-Champaign, and I worked on my MBA. And one of the things that I started to learn in business school is that you have functional organizations and then you have process-driven organizations. And when you have a process-driven organization, functional organizations, they are silos. They work independently of each other. You could treat them like many businesses within an organization. They just don't interact with each other. They function on their own. They don't have any dependency on anybody else explicitly. They might implicitly have them, but they don't explicitly have them. When you have a process-driven organization, that means that your output is somebody else's input, and they can't do their part until you finish your part. And there's an agreement between what that looks like so that work can progress. And so we have all of these people that are coming into this space and they want to start these businesses, but they're doing it without clarity. And so it's super important for me because I am you. I came into this without clarity. I came into this with some structure, but I didn't have all the structure I needed to be able to make the decisions easy for myself. All I did was create more work for myself and more stress and fatigue because I did not have these systems set up. And I started to get what people call having cognitive load. I had too many decisions that I had to make, and you get paralyzed. And so being paralyzed is like, I don't want to actually make the decision. So I'll just hold off. Even though I know I needed to do something, it's just easier for me to not make a decision. Or when it comes to having those things, and then I come home and you have, what do you want for dinner? Or what do you want to watch? Or, you know, all these other decisions that are coming about that I don't want any part of. And so I might snap or I might get antsy, and it has nothing to do with the question or the person. It is just that I don't want to deal with another thing. And so these are going to be the things that we have to get in order so we can start removing a lot of that stress and a lot of that procrastination and a lot of that, delay that people have because they are having too many decisions that they have to make, and they having so much stuff that they have to deal with before they can move forward. And so one of that is making sure that we understand who owns something. Because when we own something, now we can actually look at the risks that are involved with that ownership. If it's low risk, then we can start to delegate, or we can make decisions about how and who needs to deal with it and what are the outcomes we're looking for. And now we can start structuring it. Because if you look at these things, they actually work together in a stack. The fifth thing is observability. How will you know what happened and whether it worked? Because this is about trust, right? And when we start talking about, building our systems and we talk about source of truth, we need to have some record of understanding what happened and was that thing, correct? And if so, what does it trace back to so that we can trust it? So in real estate, activity is not visibility. Just because you're active in a whole bunch of stuff that's happening does not mean that you have visibility. Just because you have an inbox full of emails does not mean that you have visibility. Knowing which leads got followed up on, what came of it is visibility. An email that comes in, you have 50 unread emails, but you understand that of those 50 emails, 40 of them are spam that has nothing to do with anything. And you can have somebody else deal with those things, but 10 require your attention. 4 of them require a decision that you need to make. 4 of them require you to review something and give your input or your opinion. And those are the things that you need to know, because those are the things that are going to materially move your business forward. And those are the things that are going to materially matter when it comes to you being able to say, I am a business owner and I don't work in my business. And now I'm at a point where I can actually use technology to not amplify the chaos, but to amplify and multiply the efficiency that I've created in my business. And now I'm coming into this new space that I'm a business owner. I'm working in real estate. I've identified, what I'm going to do. I have a business model. I have a plan, and I am going to start this thing off right, as opposed to building it from the place that a lot of us have built it from. And you are so exhausted trying to maintain and hold all of it because you did it with a heavy dependency on you, and you're working for the business, and you're working, you're not working on the business, you're working in the business. So we're talking about readiness. Now we're at the point where at 6, we have all these things set up. We can actually start looking at what type of efficiencies can I create in my business, because now I have a source of truth. I have systems and processes that I can rely on. I've externalized everything that's in my head. Things naturally work, and they're not being pushed forward just because I have to remember to push them forward. You have all these things in place. Now we can sit down and we can talk about the big new toy that everybody's trying to push. Because I've seen this, I've talked to people, and they're spending money on these systems and they don't know what they're going to use them for. And so the frustration is just going to continue to exist. And people end up getting to the point where they get frustrated, they get tired, and they don't want to actually do anything. Because I've been there before. I know what that looks like. I understand what that looks like. And for me, that's not the place that I want you to be in. So we have 3 different things that we did. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to talk about what are the things that you need to stay in control of. And so we talked about how we need an owner and we create ownership. Those are the decisions that you have to be a part of. You cannot relinquish that to AI. Those are the things that you have to maintain ownership over. You are the authority source. You are the person that says, hey, this can happen, this can't happen. This is what I will allow, this is what I won't allow. Now, what you can do is we can set up a system that allows the system to borrow your authority, but it has to be where you give it clear instructions on what it's allowed to do and for how long it's allowed to do it. And then that would allow you to be able to create that leverage and that momentum that you want to create in your business. And you can start getting predictable income, and you can get into a rhythm and a cadence that works for you, because that's what we want to see everybody. We want everybody to be able to say in 15 seconds, this is where this thing is if I ask them. Or within less than a minute, if a new person came on, they would be able to look someplace, understand what that someplace is, and be able to find the thing that they need to find very quickly without any help from anybody else. So we're going to put things into three buckets. We're going to say, actually, there are four. We're going to say we're going to use AI now. We're going to delay it and say we can use AI later, or we can say not yet, or we can just say no, we're not going to do it at all. So, AI later means we've decided that AI can help us with this, or software can help us with this. AI now means software can help us now, we'll do it now. AI not yet is we're not sure, we have to decide, or no, we're not going to do it at all. And so those are the things that we're going to start doing when we start talking about readiness. This is one of the most important things that I need people to see when it comes to this. The first move that we make once we start getting some of these things going and we have a cadence and we can actually see that, we understand what our business model is. We understand the type of business that works in there. We understand where we're getting leads from, how we're making money, we're tracking things properly, is that we're not going to do a CRM migration. One decision is made trustworthy. So what that means is that we're going to just do one decision at a time. We're just going to work on the next thing. So when we get to the point where we're ready, we're going to make a decision. Does this lead gets immediately followed up on? And we're going to say yes or no. Okay, if it does, we're going to create one record, one owner. We have one control lead record. We have one person that's responsible. We're going to define the minimum fields. What are the minimum fields? What are the things that must be recorded? What are the few things a record must have to answer the question that we need to make a decision on? For each record, what happens? Record each deposition. What happens to each lead every time? So once we have a lead, that lead comes in, we're going to store it in a record. We're going to put that record someplace. What's going to have to happen every single time? So it could be a lead comes in, that lead needs to be stored someplace. It could be a CRM, it could be a database, it could be an Excel spreadsheet. It does not matter. Then we say, these are the things we're tracking. This is the person that owns it, and this is where it's going to exist. Then what has to happen? Well, once it's there, it needs to be dispatched to somebody so that somebody can make a call. Or it needs to be, whatever it is, so somebody can call, or it needs to be put in a list so that an email can be sent out, or a notification can be sent, or a calendar link can be text to the person so that we're sending it on text. Whatever the thing that needs to happen, we've just created all of the things that we need so that AI can create leverage. But we did it because we sat down and we thought about what is the process that we're actually running, or what is the outcome that we actually want. And we started putting these things into place. And now we're going to start using them in a way that we can allow software to help us create that leverage. So now we can let AI in, draft up the follow email, or make the phone call, or send the text, or send a calendar link. Whatever it is that we needed to do, it would do it. But the thing is, we have to make sure that we keep the human a part of the process. So the acquisition criteria and the expectations stay with the human every single time. The authority source is going to come from the person that owns the thing, and even if a system is going to be the thing that carries out the action. So hold on a second. So what I would like people to do is, to sit down and think about your business. I want you to pick one reoccurring decision, and we'll start to think about how to map it out of your head. We're going to pursue or reject the lead. Are you going to submit or revise the offer? Are you going to approve a contractor expense? Are you going to advance or stop a deal? Are you going to assign a follow up? Pick something like this, something that you have to do on a recurring basis. What are some of the decisions you have to make? And you're going to pick them. You're going to start to map it out. Is it a decision? Is there missing or conflicting input? What type of evidence does it produce? What must AI not decide, or what must remain human? What is the current source of truth? Is there a process or a decision only? What in this particular case can AI help with, or software help with, or a tool work with? Um, what is one move that requires no permission? We'll sit down and we'll start to map out those things. We'll pick the decision, we'll start to map it out, and we'll start to see what that looks like. This is how you start to build systems, and this is what we like to think about when we're talking about operating systems, because everybody keeps talking about operating systems. People keep talking about, how can I start to work better? How can I start to do things better? How can I become more efficient in what I'm doing? Things like that. And the only way you can do that is you have to start creating a system of cadence, a system of flow, but basically streamlining all the things that I need to help me make this decision and make it easier for me to make this decision, by looking at everything and saying, what are the things that I need in order to be able to make this decision now, or make it quickly, or make it with confidence, or make it, where I understand the decision I'm making and I understand what it means to to look at everything, and I understand what needs to be clear first before I can actually make that decision. Again, I want you to write down three things, and this is how we start to get into alignment. What do you actually want when it comes to starting a business, or when it comes to real estate investing? What is it that you really want? Um, this is where you really get, down to your why. Um, you know, this is where you start to think deeply about who you are as a person, and what is it that I'm doing this thing for? What do I actually want? Do you want financial freedom? Do you want your business to run without you being involved um, on a day-to-day basis? Do you want to come in and only work 1 hour a day, and you have your business set up where you see all the decisions and you can make them very quickly? What is it that you want? I want you to sit and I want you to think about that, and I want you to jot that down, write it down, because there's something about writing these things down that really makes a difference. The second thing I want you to do is, what is in the way right now? What is actually preventing you from being able to do it? Is it fear? Is it clarity? You don't have the clarity to be able to see everything you need to be able to make a decision. What is it that we have a thing called invisible debt, and that is when you take a task and you say, I got to go to the grocery store. And what that really involves is, 20 different things that you can't see, because you just identify the thing as being the grocery store, going to the grocery store. But it also involves, what do I want to eat? What do I have in the refrigerator? So you got to do inventory. You got to project, what do I want to eat? Then you have to think about, what do I have going? How much time do I have? And it becomes very discouraging, because you can't deal with all of that right now. So you just choose not to. That's the same thing when it comes to business. What is in the way right now? Are the decisions just unclear? Can you not see them? Do you not have things mapped? Are you the wrong person to be looking at it? Is the ownership not clarified? Those are the things that you need to deal with in order to be able to move into the alignment phase. The third thing I want you to do is, what is the one move you can make that requires no permission? Like, just do it. Like, you don't need anybody to give you permission to say, this is the right CRM, or this is the right lead, or this is the right way to do it. What is the thing that you can do without anybody's permission? You're the one that is the authoritative source. You're the authority source. You're the person that has ownership over it. You claim it. Now you have permission. So what we often do, and the things that we often don't do, is give ourselves permission to make the decisions because we haven't taken ownership over it. And so when you haven't taken ownership over it and you're waiting for somebody else to give you permission to do it, it often never gets done. I want you to write those things down. I want you to keep track of those things. And I want you to go back and think about just these three things. You don't have to think about the whole process we talked today, but I wanted to give you an idea of what are all the things that must be clear first before you can actually make decisions or leverage clarity with AI. And we want to show you on Tuesdays how you can actually use it as a coaching partner to help get the answers to these things when you're not sure, because that's one of the other things that's really stopping people is not knowing the word that, or knowing how to speak the words on how they feel. So a lot of times we just don't say anything, or we just let it, sit in our head. We don't ask for help. We don't know how to move it forward. So before next Thursday class, I want you to pick one decision. I want you to give it one trustworthy record. And when I say that, it doesn't have to be complicated. It needs to be, if you're going to take something as simple as, I want to be able to see how much profit I made in the last 7 days. That's a decision. I want to be able to decide, I need to be able to decide if we're buying or if we're selling. And in order for me to make that decision, I need to know how much profit we made in the last 30 days or the last 7 days. And I need to know what that information needs to look like when it comes to storage, or what are we don't need to call it a record. We're going to say, what are the things that I need that's going to help me make that decision? I need to know, how much what my expenses are. I need to know what my revenue is. I need to know this. I need to know what that, the time frame, all of these things I need to know. And then we're going to let AI help only inside that boundary for this one thing, just to illustrate and show you. So on Thursdays, we make things clear. On Tuesdays, we show you how to use AI to help you create these things. And you're not trying to build the whole system. You're going to externalize these things, and you're going to take one step at a time and be able to build this stuff out over time. AI can only accelerate a clear operation. So your job this week is to make one thing clear. Don't try to do the whole thing. Just make one thing clear. Even if we go back to number one, what is it that you really want? Or what is your business model? Or what is the reason why you're doing this? If you're not sure about that, you're not clear about it, then you're not going to be able to create the business that you deserve. You're not going to be clear about what your objective is and what you actually need to do to move forward. So right now, I will give you guys the opportunity to ask questions if you have them. I'll take a few questions and we can have that discussion. But was that clear? And did that help anybody? If that's something that was beneficial for you, again, I want you to write those things down. I want you to think about those things, and I want you to really examine what it is that you want for your business. Why did you get into real estate? Because if you're not clear about it, and I talk about this because I have spent so many hours talking to people who come into this business and they're not clear about what they want. And if you're not clear about what you want, then we cannot put you in a position that is going to allow you to use the things that can materially help you grow your business and create less stress for you. Because the whole point is about giving you more clarity and less stress. I am going to upload this video to my YouTube page if you guys want to go back and look at it. I'll put that information in the chat so that people are aware. And I'll be keeping that information there so that people can, you know, find it whenever they want, or they can reference it whenever they want, or they can, show other people if they think it was beneficial. I'll also give you a link to Tuesday if you guys are interested in seeing the other side of this, which is showing you how to use AI as a thinking partner to help you externalize your business, externalize the infrastructure of your business, or help you discover what that should look like so you can start building the pieces that you need to move forward. So give me 1 second. I will put those things in the chat. Again, I'm launching this page. Put the replay here. And if you are interested in the Tuesday class, or if you don't, remember what those things are, I will put this here so that you can actually get the link to join these. This is going to be where we actually show you. This is going to put into practice the So this is when we have those. So if that's something you're going to do, you can actually click on these links and get access to the replays, or get access to the Tuesday discussions that we'll be having. But if you have no questions, I will let you guys go. Appreciate you guys joining in, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.